go. You're on your own.
My first solo. Again. So my journey into tailwheel flying was kind of an interesting one. The plane that I started training on was damaged shortly after my first lesson, and then my next few hours of training were kind of dragged out over a couple months on several different airplane types, but it was really cool and I don't regret it, and it was actually an amazing way to start flying tailwheel. And here we are doing a lesson on wheel landings, which is an awesome video. Check the description for that link. And then finally getting me warmed up for my first solo in the Super Cub.
That's about trim for takeoff there.
That's completely neutral.
Why is this?
This is an awesome example of knowing your airplane.
Is that right?
No.
What's up?
No.
Something feels lumpy?
It's just, you know, like it's binding a little bit.
Let me see. I'm not used to it enough to notice. There's a little bit of vibration right there.
Right after
Yeah.
departure to the west.
Maybe a bad. Oh, there's got a broken pulley on the aileron cable.
Wow, good catch.
It's just the flange on the edge of the pulley's broken off.
Right.
It's not the end of the world. It'll be fine.
But that's a snag?
Yep.
Right.
I wanted to share that awesomeness. What a great example of properly doing the controls-free incorrect check. So many of us go through the motions of that check, but don't think about why we do it.
All right. Yep. You're good to go.
I'm good to go.
Anyway, after the wheel landing lesson, Dennis was confident that I was on top of my game, so I dropped him off and did my first solo.
Alright. God help me.
Despite a respectable crosswind, this solo actually went pretty well. But stay tuned for my worst landing, which was the next day.
Holy shit. I'm by myself in this thing. Alright, so I literally feel like this is my first solo again. This is a lot of airplane after flying tricycle gear. Just taxiing is taxing. It's taxing to taxi this thing. Not going to do a run-up, but I'm going to do a pre-takeoff check. Mixture is rich, carb heat is cold, primer is locked, mags are on both, master is on. Harness is good, brake push is good, flaps are going to be 0, trim is good. Alright, so this is going to be a crosswind takeoff with the crosswind from the right. And Burlington traffic, Fox Kilo Oscar is taking runway 09 for me to take off for the circuit. First solo and tail dragger, God help me. Okay, here we go. Alright, so the airplane is going to be light. It's probably going to jump right off the ground with no instructor in the back. Let's be ready for that. Bunch of jab, bunch of jab. Oh yeah, that was probably my best takeoff roll ever. That is awesome. Okay. Power's coming back, 24. Wings are clean. Just do what I was doing.
Kilo Oscar Victor joining final for runway 14.
And Burlington traffic, Fox Kilo Oscar is left, downwind 09 for a full stop on the grass, Burlington. Alright, just do what you've been doing. Downwind check, mixture is rich, carb heat is going to be tested, not left on. Primer's in and locked.
Burlington traffic,
Mags are on
Victor
both.
rolling 1-4.
Master is on, fuel is where I want it. Downwind check is complete. Oh, let's loosen up actually. Loosen up. Alright, let's get the power back to 15. Then to the white arc. That one notch flaps out. A little bit high, but not terrible. Looking for birds, and one aircraft is rolling 1-4. The mouth is dry.
Burlington traffic, X-ray Sierra Mike over top of the airport, pattern altitude to join a mid-left downwind for runway 14 for a full stop.
Burlington traffic, Golf Victor Juliet Kilo, approximately 1 mile.
A little bit low.
Altitude and mountain landing, runway 14.
And Burlington traffic, Fox Kilo Oscar is mid-left base 09, about to turn final, full stop on the grass, 09 Burlington. Alright, crosswind is from the right. Both flaps are out. A little bit high. Not terrible. And I'm going to crab until I get where I want to be for the slip. Yeah, there's that sink, so I'm at 65, not bad. Just going to hold everything stable.
Traffic, Kilo Oscar Victor, stop is downwind for runway 14 behind the traffic.
Alright, just fly the airplane, you know what you're doing. Get ready to stuff it into the back right corner. Oh yeah, that was awesome. Stuff it in the back right corner. Stuff it in the back right corner. Symmetrical braking. That may have been my best landing. Holy shit. Awesome.
So that went well, but it ain't a Flight Chops video without some sort of learning moment. So check this out. This is the lead up to my worst landing in the tail dragger to date. Energy management and avoiding stretching the glide is a lesson Dennis drilled into me throughout my tailwheel training.
Get the nose down a bit because she's going to start to sink if you try and stretch the glide. You remember back in ground school the drag curve, right? Yeah, so the drag curve on this is steep.
Feels so slow right now.
Yeah, and you are. So if you continue to try and stretch the glide with that power setting, you'd go into slow flight and sink like crazy.
I feel a little fast here.
Oh, don't worry. This thing does not glide very well. Once I pull the power out, this thing comes out of the sky like a refrigerator. Bring the power back a bit more. Keep the nose down. Each time you chop the power, just nudge the nose down a little more.
As the airplane slows down, it goes up the backside of that drag curve really quickly. The only way to compensate for that is with a little bit of extra power. You're good now. Just remember, each time you chop the power, just nudge the nose down a little bit to preserve the energy.
Because it's very draggy. You got to make up that loss of energy somehow.
Okay, so yeah, you're stretching it now. Just watch not to stretch the glide out, nudge a bit of power and get the nose down a bit more.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
And after all that, I thought it had sunk in because I hadn't been bit by letting it happen yet. But there's nothing like learning from mistakes. Here's what happens when you do stretch the glide and don't catch the increased sink rate in time. This was a quick flight warming up for my second solo, and Dennis let me do it wrong this time. Keep an eye on the airspeed and watch that I don't recognize that I'm bleeding it off too soon.
Oh shit. Were you watching that?
Yeah.
Sorry, man. How'd that do? I didn't flare early enough, eh?
No, you got slow and it started to sink.
I didn't
and then you tried to arrest the sink by pulling back more rather than cracking a bit more power onto it.
It was cocky to aim right for the threshold, and I ended up landing short as a result of this screw up. Feel sorry for that poor tailwheel getting splattered on the concrete there.
Alright, so
That's alright, she's seen a lot worse.
Wow, okay, what's officially my worst?
Yeah, you can analyze that one.
I'm sure as hell gonna be, I got tailwheel cam and everything, so I'll see how hard that hit.
Yeah, probably hit tailwheel first.
I think it did, and I think it hit the concrete.
To join the left downwind for runway 14.
Funny, my best landing ever was my very first solo. It's kind of weird how that works, eh?
It usually is.
I don't see any pieces here, so I guess.
Alright, well, let's try not to do that again. And you can drop me off.
Alright, so why are there a little over 5 minutes remaining in this video? It's because I looked back into my footage to find some insights as to why that happened. And here's two things that I'm doing. First, I tend not to look at the airspeed during the takeoff roll and the last bit of final approach during the transition. I'm not saying it's wrong, but it's a thing that I do. So this is from the second flight in the Citabria, and I'd looked at the footage from the first flight before this flight, and I noticed something interesting upon review.
Now watch the airspeed, by the way, if you can see it. It doesn't come alive until 50 knots. Okay. I saw that in the video because I wasn't looking in real time. Watch it snap alive. There. I only saw that by reviewing the video. Because all the takeoffs the other day I didn't look down.
So yeah, I pretty much don't do the airspeeds alive check when I'm flying tailwheel. It just seems too scary to look down even for a second. As I gain more experience, I'm sure I'll be more comfortable with my ability to see and avoid the swerving trend on the roll. But for now, I want all the time I can get to recognize it and fix it if it starts to happen. Anyway, back to why that landing sucked. Here I am solo just after it happened.
Alright, so I've scared myself once so far on this flight. I wasn't even solo when that happened.
Part of the problem is that, like on the takeoff roll, I don't look down at the speed for the last bit of the transition on short final. I really want to avoid landing with any side load, and I feel like the visual cues from looking straight ahead are the best way to detect and fix it in minimal time. I appreciate that Dennis knew I was good to go after that bad one. It was a good lesson, and I won't do it again. But here I am figuring out why it happened, because there's more to it than just not looking down at the airspeed.
One notch. Alright, crosswind is from the right, reasonably strong. I'm not going to try to nail the threshold, but I'm also not going to come up with tons of speed because I don't want to be blasting down that tiny, tiny bit of grass. Let's do this like we know what we're doing. I'm going to wait on full flaps. Get it slower though, because we're at 80. Alright, full flaps. Bam. Bit of a slip. Alright, loosen it up. Do not drop it on. Watch your speed. I guess my trim is not ideal. That's part of my problem right there, eh? That's part of what screwed me. I'm fighting the trim to keep it at 70. That's the problem.
That bad landing scare also cost me some confidence about letting it get slower than 70, which obviously you need to do in order to land short enough on a small grass strip like this. And as a result, I came in fast and landed long on this one.
Anyway, that was not a good landing. So that was not awesome, and it was because it was not trimmed. Now the trim in this airplane is not my favorite part of the problem.
Trim is your friend, and if I had trimmed it well on final, I could have afforded to stay eyes out, as speed and pitch probably wouldn't have been changing much, assuming I wasn't fighting the trim to hold the speed that I wanted. And here's why the trim has been an issue for me in the Super Cub.
So I'm definitely fighting with the trim a bit on the descent, but...
Right now you have the trim in the takeoff position. Set the power about 2300 RPM.
Yeah.
And then trim it so that the airplane's in level flight. On the downwind here, just trim it so that it's flying without gaining or losing altitude. And then just leave it there, and you'll find that as you pull the power back, you're going to have to physically hold the nose up, but then once you put some flaps in and pull all the power off, it's trimmed almost perfectly for approach.
Yeah, that's what I want, yeah. So I guess something like that, eh? That's hands-free right now.
Yeah.
So this is my least favorite thing about the Super Cub. I thought the heel brakes were weird, but I've learned to love them. It's this dang window winder from a 70s Chevy that I don't love about the Super Cub trim. Another mental block about it is that I've been told it's tough to repair the cable because it's underneath the fabric skin, so I've been subconsciously avoiding using it too much. As a result, I got out of the habit of using trim like I do in nose wheel. Even in the Citabria, I was avoiding using the trim.
Check the stick for a second and tell me if you think I'm fighting too much with trim. You got it?
Uh-huh.
Would you change it?
What do you think?
Yeah, right? Okay, well, I just wanted to see what you thought.
Yeah, no, just keep actively using it.
Yeah, I think for the Super Cub, I got out of the habit of...
Yeah, because it's a winder and it's a pain in the butt, but the Stearman's the same as this. It's just a stick that you push.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been an unexpectedly weird thing to get used to the trim in the Super Cub. But if it's trimmed correctly, this is how it should feel.
So from right here now, pull the power slowly all the way back to idle, but hold the nose up. Don't let the nose drop.
And then get her slowed down.
Get her slowed down, put flaps on it. 1 notch or 2, doesn't matter. And now let go of the stick with the power all the way off. What's the speed?
Yeah, 65. Yeah, now it's settling actually.
Yeah,
Is that you? No.
Let it stabilize.
No, it's going nose down, but yeah, 70.
It's in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
And now just
put the power back where I want it.
Wherever you want it, or abbreviate the circuit so that you get back to the runway, whatever you like.
Okay.
So that's the way to trim the Super Cub, and I was not doing it. I'm pretty sure that's what bit me there on that bad landing.
Didn't feel right on final. My speed got low. I was fighting the trim. Had to add power. Wasn't awesome. I think I had it trimmed for wheel landing with 1 notch of flaps as part of the problem. Gonna debrief that.
And that's what this is all about. Doing a solid post-flight debrief is huge. Now, I'm not saying everybody should fly with 5 GoPros like I do, but at least make notes and do what you can so that you can review your flights and learn from them. Reviewing my footage is tremendously helpful for me, and I'm happy to share. Now in this case, this video took me almost 4 full days to edit, so it is a fair amount of work, but again, it's rewarding for me to share them. And on that note, I just want to say thanks so much to everybody on Patreon. I recently reached my 2nd milestone goal, which is really awesome, and the email notification for that actually came this morning after I'd been up almost all night editing this thing, because I've kind of missed my deadline. I'm trying to do it every 2nd Friday. This is coming out basically on Saturday. I've had a lot of work lately, and I just want to say thanks so much. The support has been great, and I definitely am going to continue to share them.
You're not learning unless you're sweating and slightly scaring yourself.
So stick around. I got 1 more minute here just because my buddy was there to shoot my post-flight reaction to my first solo, and just some other thoughts on tailwheel flying in general.
How's that?
That's good. I mean, I'm sweaty. Okay, so flying this airplane as soon as Dennis got out, it definitely felt like my first solo again as a student pilot. Not comfortable entirely with this airplane. I'm comfortable enough that I know I'm safe. There's definitely nervous butterflies, there's no question about it. This airplane has a lot to handle, and I scared myself a couple times briefly, but you know,
If you're not over your head slightly, you're not learning.
So getting into tailwheel flying far exceeded my expectations. I highly recommend it. The route that I took was a little bit different, flying a bunch of different airplanes over 6 months to get my first 5 hours. But since releasing this video, or as of releasing this video, I'm just breaking 20 hours now, and I'm starting to feel comfortable, but I also know enough to know what I don't know, if you know what I mean. So this is the type of flying that really reminds you that staying proficient requires practice and constant vigilance. So in this case, definitely keep your tailwheel flight chops sharp.
This is awesome.
This is a fun airplane. It's honest, it's tough. Obviously any tailwheel plane presents a challenge taking off and landing, but once it's up in the air, it's just a hoot.
Yeah, man, it's great.
It's really just a flying Jeep.